The Highlander. This is a movie I saw, I want to say last week after it came out. I got it from Amazon. I got the director's cut edition. And it was pretty good. I can see why people like this series. I think I read the wiki about it in high school, but I never watched it myself until, well, again, last week. I feel stupid for never watching it to begin with. Also, sorry about the image you'll be seeing on this first slide. Like I had to use Google Images for this, and that thing gives me like really shitty image options. But yeah, it was pretty good. I can definitely see certain influences it's had, like the idea of immortality not being as pleasant as some people think. Um, I also like the cast they got. Like they had three actors who I think sold this movie for me. It was I want to say it was Christopher Lambert or whoever it is that plays Connor MacLeod. Him, Clancy Brown, the guy who plays the Kurgan, and Sean Connery, the only guy whose name I know for sure, who plays Ramirez. Those three really sell it for me in terms of this movie, and for that reason, I would recommend it wholeheartedly. But before I get into the meat and potatoes of why, yeah, I think I would just like to say, yeah, this is a really interesting movie. This is probably the first sword and sorcerer movie I've ever seen. Well, actually, no, I've probably seen some in the past, and I just didn't know it. And moreover, this kind of now makes me weep for the fact they're remaking this masterpiece. Like the only upside is it's got Henry Cavill in it, but that kind of makes me worry for Henry Cavill's career because these people making these remakes they suck sometimes. Actually, no, not sometimes. They generally suck. And the Highlander, I want this remake to do well, but at the same time, ugh, it does make me wonder what Cavill's going to be playing as the because I actually want him to play the Kurgan. Like I've never seen him play a bad guy before, and I would like to see him as a bad guy. Like I've seen him be a suave spy. I've seen him be Superman. Well, sort of seen him be Superman. I've seen clips of his work as Geralt of Rivia. So yeah, I would like to see him play a bad guy as the Kurgan. Actually, no, the bad guy would be an understatement. The Kurgan is a downright piece of shit, which is one of the things I like about him. Is he's not this feel sorry for me, woe is me kind of monster that say I'm going to violate, do whatever I want. Anyone who gets in my way, God help you. But I should be saving that for later. Actually, that's one of the good things about the remake is it more or less caused me to eventually. Well, it was one of the factors that contributed to me eventually getting this on DVD to watch it. And yeah, as I said before, it is a crom damn good masterpiece. First thing I would like to touch on is the Connor MacLeod character. I'm pretty sure I misspelled his name on here though, so after I'm done doing the recording, I'm going to have to go back and make sure I got the spelling right. Now, as you can imagine, this guy's from Scotland, the Highlands themselves, ergo the title of the movie. And this guy is an immortal. Like, if you don't know the plot to Highlander, this video is for you. If not, just and you're. Well, actually, know if you already know the plot of the movie, you can feel free to leave. Unless you're a masochist and enjoy putting your ears through torture, in which case, feel free to stay. Um, MacLeod was a Highlander, part of Clan MacLeod. He went to battle one day, got stabbed with a sword by the antagonist of the film. He was expected to die. He made a full recovery somehow. Had the shit beat out of him by everyone except one of his relatives, Angus, and the rest of his clan basically kicked him out. Well, actually, no, they were going to kill him. Angus, his I want to say cousin, spoke on his behalf, and he was allowed to leave. He was the only one in Clan MacLeod who was not a piece of shit. Not counting Duncan, but he was not a thing at the time, so he doesn't count. And yeah, he has lived life for centuries, watching friends and loved ones grow old and die. Like he only loved one other person. Well, there were two people he loved. One I think his name was Mara, but she was one of the villagers who tried to kill him. He did have another love. I believe her name was Heather. She grew old and died, and he could do nothing about it. And unfortunately, being an immortal means. Oh, I forgot to mention just known as an immortal. If you are one of these immortals, you can't have children, which sucks. And he's lived through life through various events. One time he was in France. I'm assuming that's their explanation for why he has that accent. Like he picked it up while he was in France. At one point, he fought Nazis and rescued a little girl, which I thought was pretty good. Like, anyway, he has all these various artifacts from different points in history, and he carries a katana sword underneath his trench coat in case he ever gets attacked. And at the beginning of the movie, he's actually attacked by another immortal. I think his name was not Castigear. I don't know, this Polish national. I forget his real name. But he attacks him. Connor wins. He hides his sword. He gets questioned by the dickhead police. Is let go. He gets applauded by some of the convicts after he punches a cop after the cop attacked him. Where they're like, "Damn man, good job." I loved it. I really did love it. And I kind of like the way the actor whose name I'm now forgetting. I liked how he portrayed MacLeod in this movie because he kind of came off as this detached, cynical, well not cynical, but kind of disillusioned person who he's cut himself off from humanity. Like he no longer wants to watch his friends grow old and die. He doesn't want to go through that. And the only other time you see him enjoying like him actually being himself with someone is I think with Castigar, a fellow immortal. Like that was the funny thing about this TV show apparently is you get to see all these immortals interact, and not all of them are trying to kill each other. Like they know they have to kill each other at some point, but they try to prolong it for as long as possible. All of them, except for a few. One of them being the Kurgan, who is next. But before I move on to that, yeah, the acting for this character was, I want to say superb, but then again, I'm not the best judge of acting, so watch it and make of it what you will. But I liked it. I liked his lines. It was pretty obvious, I think, that he was not a seasoned. I think he had to have a translator coach come in to help him, but apparently he did a lot of roles with the Scottish accent he was doing. I didn't notice that, but then again, I'm not from Scotland. Nor would I want to be, considering what happened with Count Dankula. The Kurgan, played by Clancey motherfucking Brown. This is a guy that I've seen him from time to time, and I probably didn't know why he was important, but he was recognizable. Like the first time I saw this guy's face, and it became recorded in my memory was when he was in I think Daredevil. I think that's around the time I started to know his face more and more. And yeah, he has a familiar voice also. And his acting is over the top in this, but I like that. I also like how the Kurgan is an unrepentant piece of shit. He is a classical antagonist or villain. He's depraved. He's sociopathic. He's just evil as fuck. That's all there is to it, and I like it. Like, I miss when villains were like this. Like, I used to like the gray area, non-moral binary shit, but now I'm getting sick of it. Like, this is kind of refreshing to look back on now. And, yeah, it was good. I liked how... Like, I like that church scene also, because the Kurgan's kind of a badass. Like, he gives zero fucks about anything. And I like it. I like his just, I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to fuck with people and have some fun. Both literally and figuratively. And anyone who gets in my way, again, God help you, because there's no stopping me. Like, he's the strongest of all the immortals. And this is something that's kind of funny about the acting in this movie. MacLeod is played by a Frenchman, so he's a Frenchman pretending to be a Scotsman. The Kurgan is played by, I believe Clancey Brown's an American, so he's an American trying to pretend he's a Russian. And Ramirez, who I'll be talking about next, is played by a Scotsman pretending to be an Egyptian who's masquerading as a Spaniard. You gotta love this movie. It's weird. It's super weird in the funnest of ways. and I like it. And apparently Clancy Brown was so convincing at being creepy that no one on the set would talk to him. Like they would go out of their way to avoid him, apparently. Which I think is kind of interesting. That kind of just shows what his acting talent is. That's kind of like, well, it's kind of like what's his name, David Boreanaz, the guy who played Angel and Seeley Booth in Bones. Before Angel was a spinoff series. Um, what's his name? The douchebag who directed Buffy. Joss Whedon. He did not think he would be able to pull it off. Uh, Boreanaz pulled it off. He was really scary and convincing, so much so that they gave him a spinoff. And that's kind of what Clancy Brown's performance in this reminds me of, and that it is so unnerving and over the top and creepy that it convinced everyone he was actually creepy in real life. I don't know why it reminds me of that, but it does, and I love it. I also like how he has this big ass sword that he can dismantle and take apart. Like he carries it around in a suitcase. Also, he has these pins in his neck because at one point Ramirez, MacLeod's mentor, he cut his throat. It healed, but the scar never went away. And yeah, he was a badass and a degenerative badass creepo, and I liked it. He also has that good line I love where it's I have something to say. It's better to burn out than fade away. Which I think Critical Drinker used that as a way to end his video, which was when he was talking about the remake. Like the movie burned out, they had nothing left to use, and it should have died with dignity there. Which I have no idea where I'm going with that part, but yeah, I like that line. It's very emblematic of the Kurgan as a character. Um, he's just going to enjoy life as much as possible and fuck the consequences. Like he doesn't care whose life he ruins in the process. And that is the exact type of antagonist and villain I wish we had more of in movies now. Sean Connery. Sean Connery. God bless this man. His performance was kind of interesting. Like he's supposed to be an Egyptian masquerading as a Spaniard. So you have a Scotsman playing a Egyptian who's pretending to be a Spaniard. Again, I find this very funny. I don't know why, I just do. And the funny thing about this is, I believe I heard from, I forget his name, but he does all these fact videos, and one of them was about Highlander. Apparently, Sean Connery's scenes were all shot in a week. In 1 week, he did all that performance. So if you've seen this movie and you're still watching this, um, yeah, those scenes were done in a week, which is kind of impressive. Probably helped that him and Lambert had a pretty good on-screen chemistry, non-romantic chemistry for any shippers who are having any funny ideas. And I think this is apparently the start of Connery's transition from like leading man to mentor role, which I think he hated. Which is sad because he actually did a mentor role very well. I like him in the mentor role. Then again, I've never seen him play a leading man before, so that could be my personal hang-up. But and yeah, he's like the immortal Obi-Wan Kenobi or the Yoda of this series of the show of the movie. I'm sorry, I swear my brain works some days. And he doesn't have a lot of screen time, but his influence is kind of felt, and his death is heavily felt. Um, you see the influence he's had. Well, not he hasn't had too much of an influence, but it does kind of feel like to me he has a presence still even after he's died. And he went out like a hero, in my opinion. He went out a ballsy blaze of glory, in my opinion. Like he went down, making it as painful for the Kurgan as possible. I mean, he stabbed him, cut his throat. I mean, the throat healed eventually, but still. And also, I'm pretty sure, like MacLeod, I may have misspelled the name Ramirez. So yeah, there's also that to consider. But anyway, yeah, this is another performance that I think sells the movie and makes it worth a watch. Like his screen time and interactions with MacLeod are very enjoyable. Now, with all that in mind, I would have to say my favorite thing about this movie is probably the dynamic between the Kyrigan and MacLeod. Um, because I think it's really kind of interesting to see how they look at immortality. Well, not how they look at immortality, but how they go about it. The Kurgan, while he is a bastard and a degenerate, he seems to be enjoying life the most to a certain degree. Whereas MacLeod, he is burned out. He has lost all zest for life. He's just given up. And it's kind of sad. Like, life has burned him out, and it's torn him down a couple times because he's had to watch countless people he knows die. And, like, the last one he has left is a girl he saved in World War II, I believe. And that was it. And yet, the funny thing is, it's the guy who has become cynical and jaded and really just had enough of life is the one who is the good guy who actually tries to save people. And it's the guy who enjoys life who's trying to kill a bunch of people and is psychotic. And it's just a classic dynamic, I think, where you have a good guy and a bad guy, which I like. I miss these kind of dynamics where you have a bad guy who's just slime, who is scum. And this is sold perfectly by Clancey Brown, who I really hope got more movie roles, regardless of how things went down with this movie. And I think there's actually a reference to him in the TV series. I think I still have to watch that. I'm still waiting for that to come in the mail. But yeah, I just like the dynamic between them, how they interacted, like even how they interacted before MacLeod knew what he was. Like the Kurgan knew it; he was an immortal after he stabbed him, I think, or even before probably, because when they were fighting, none of the Kurgan's men would attack MacLeod. The Kurgan gets to him, and it seems like the Kurgan knows instinctly, sorry, what MacLeod is, and he's about to cut his head off, saying the famous line, "There can only be one." Like that is so the Krugen kind of, or the I'm sorry, the Kurgan more or less started MacLeod's journey. All the pain, all the misery MacLeod had to live through. You can technically blame on the Kurgan because I think I heard that an immortal, if he's never injured, he can live a normal life. Maybe. Hard to say for sure. I cannot remember for the life of me. But yeah, it's very satisfying to see their perspectives on life and kind of like just how how you like you get you see how two different people react to immortality. The Kurgan, I think, has spent immortality alone, but enjoying life and being a scumbag all around. MacLeod has stopped enjoying immortality because he has watched God only knows how many people die that he cares about. And yeah, the and you kind of see the stakes of what would happen if the Kurgan would win. Like he is slime, and if he won the prize, I would kind of hate to see what humanity would be like if he was the king or he had his own wish. Because I would hate to see what his wish would be or what that kind of power from the quickening would give him. But yeah, the dynamic is pretty good. Like all the dynamics in the movie are pretty good, but for me, the one that is the most interesting is the one between the Kurgan and MacLeod. The final confrontation, like this is probably the last part of it, but I found the final fight to be very satisfying. Like how the Kurgan goes out, how MacLeod fights. That one line where he's like, "What kept you?" And yeah, it was very satisfying. The music was just good, and how MacLeod has that and is the last person to say there can only be one when he kills the Kyrigan and makes him into a Pez dispenser, to quote another YouTuber. And yeah, it was very satisfying. And that's all I wanted to say about the movie. Was the final confrontation is very satisfying. I did not care about anything after that final confrontation. Like, that was the end of where I gave a fuck. But yeah, it was good. It was good, and as far as I'm concerned, the sequels do not exist. The sequels do not exist. They should not exist. If you tell me there are sequels, I will deny it harder than an atheist denies God. And that is the video. If I had to rate this movie, 9 out of 10. No, 9.9 out of 10. Or an 8.9 out of 10. It's hard for me to make ratings because I can never be sure. My mind's pretty fickle sometimes. But yeah, probably an 8.9 or a 9.9 out of 10, or just a 9 out of 10. Um, and this is actually pretty good for an 80s movie. Like, some of these movies are just really, like, the logic goes out the window. Like, it's been yeeted out the window usually. And if you're asking for examples, Commando. That is my example. Anyway, that's the video. If you have already seen the Highlander and you decide to see the end of this video, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Um, if you aren't and you haven't seen the Highlander yet, what are your thoughts anyway? Also, if you've already seen it, or is there anything I should have highlighted more? But yeah, other than that, that's the end of the video. Have a nice day, and remember the game was rigged from the start.